Now we're sharing Chapter 9 of Steve Jobs, the exclusive biography, titled Going Public, the Man of Wealth and Fame. It was December 1980, and Apple was about to make a big splash with its initial public offering IPO, like a wild tech party. Imagine Steve Jobs, the former dropout and garage dreamer, suddenly on the verge of becoming a billionaire. It's more exciting than winning the lottery. On the day of the IPO, Apple's stock shot up like a rocket. Oh! It opened at $22 and closed at $29. Jobs' net worth instantly exceeded $200 million. It was like hitting the jackpot overnight, folks. But what was he doing? Sitting in his office, as calm as if he were sipping coffee. He's even said to have mumbled, "Money? That stuff isn't important. What matters is that our computers can change the world." That's classic Jobs, always steering the wealth talk towards innovation. It's both funny and exasperating. Of course, where there's wealth, fame follows. The media swarmed around Apple's headquarters like star-struck fans, with camera flashes going non-stop. Jobs became the rock star of Silicon Valley. Reporters asked, "Steve, how did you do it?" He might have replied, "Easy, just don't listen to those so-called experts." That's a feisty answer. But fame isn't free. He started gracing magazine covers and TV interviews. Even street vendors recognized him. Apple transformed from a cool startup into a billion-dollar company. Suited investors filled the office, and the atmosphere got a bit tense. Jobs enjoyed the spotlight, but deep down, he was still a control freak. He personally interviewed new employees, afraid of hiring mediocre talent. The double whammy of wealth and fame turned Jobs' life upside down. He bought a mansion and drove a Mercedes, but his mind was completely on the product. The Macintosh project was in full swing. Employees joked among themselves, "The boss is rich, but his temper in the meeting room is the same. He still yells at people." The biography mentions that this IPO not only helped Apple gain a solid foothold, but also attracted a lot of talent. However, Jobs' management style became even more assertive, and conflicts were inevitable. Humorously, he always said money was a tool, not a goal, but then he'd turn around and invest in new ideas, like an unstoppable machine. As this chapter ends, Apple is shining brightly, and Jobs stands at the peak. But beneath the sweet taste of wealth, there are undercurrents. In the next chapter, we'll find out how Jobs copes with an unexpected storm when the fairy tale of fame and fortune meets real-world challenges. In 1983, it wasn't just an Apple garage. It was a lab. Steve Jobs was roaring at a bunch of pirates, the Macintosh team members, with a skull and crossbones flag hanging above their heads. They were told to be outlaws and revolutionize the world. Jobs held up a circuit board and shouted, "Even the solder joints have to be elegant. Users can't see them, but God can." It was what his father taught him, that even hidden parts should be as beautiful as art. This obsession spread to every pixel. Designer Susan Kare stayed up all night to redraw icons 30 times because Jobs thought the rounded corners lacked a sense of smile. Engineer Andy Hertzfeld was forced to write the Chariots of Fire music program in 2 days, only to have it scrapped for a recording because the sound quality was not wholly enough. When the team was collapsed on the floor, Jobs kicked the door open and said, "Get up! The product launch is the ultimate magic." He spent $750,000 on an ad more than the R&D cost. He hired Ridley Scott, the director of Blade Runner, to create a dystopian blockbuster. In the ad, bald people stared blankly at the Big Brother screen, and a white-clad female warrior smashed the darkness with a hammer. After watching it, the board of directors was silent. The worst ad in history. Scully was so scared that he wanted to sell the Super Bowl ad slot. But Jobs snickered and dragged Woz to watch the film. "Look, our manifesto." Woz immediately took out his wallet. "It, I'll pay half the cost." On January 24, 1984, the Flint Auditorium was in darkness. Jobs, in a sharp suit, was reciting Bob Dylan's rebellious lyrics. "The losers now will be later to win." Suddenly, the lights went out, and the ad blasted across the venue. 96 million Americans saw the blue light of the hammer smashing the screen at the same time. The crowd roared in the dark. Jobs walked out slowly, pulling the Macintosh out of a bag like pulling out a holy sword. At the moment he pressed the button, Chariots of Fire blared, and scrolling text appeared on the screen. Awesome! The craziest moment came when the computer suddenly spoke in a trembling electronic voice. "Hello, I'm Mac. Don't trust a computer you can't carry." The audience screamed until they were out of breath. Jobs choked with emotion. He'd just had the computer insult IBM and call him Dad. This dark magic show was essentially Jobs' self-redemption. The rebel girl in the ad had a Mac logo on her vest, symbolizing his manifesto against IBM's Big Brother. The closed design Mac violated the hacker spirit, but he used the rebel persona to wash away the label of betrayal. Even more ironic, the scene of the hammer smashing the totalitarian screen was under his control. He spent 5 hours adjusting the lights and forced employees to rearrange the seats. Even Scully became a human light meter. When the media asked about the secret of success, Jobs sneered, "Did Bell do market research before inventing the telephone. What was the price of this myth? When the pirate flag came down, the team received Macs with their names engraved on them, while Jobs had already set his eyes on a new battlefield. But a storm was brewing. That neighbor from Microsoft, who once danced with him, was quietly copying Apple's TV.